Episode 29, The Public Declaration. The conference room felt smaller than Dex remembered, though nothing about its dimensions had changed. Same gray walls, same utilitarian furniture, same viewport showing the endless curve of Starbase 447's hull. But the space between heartbeats had stretched into something vast and uncertain, filled with the weight of a decision that would reshape his entire existence. Dex sat at the head of the table, Elara on his right, Admiral Strand on his left. Garrett had taken a seat near the viewport, his weathered face thoughtful as he watched maintenance drones work outside, a reminder of the life Dex was leaving behind. War-Poet Kresh'tal stood near the door, his massive 3-meter frame a silent promise of protection, arms crossed over his armored chest. 24 hours, Strand said, checking his data pad. The inquiry reconvenes at 1400 tomorrow. That gives us time to prepare your statement, coordinate with the matriarch, and ensure proper security protocols. Dex nodded, though his 17-dimensional perception showed him countless versions of tomorrow. Probability streams branching and collapsing, quantum signatures of potential futures flickering like candle flames. In some, he stood before the inquiry panel with confidence. In others, his voice cracked with doubt. In a few, Representative Zhao's coalition arrived early, turning the announcement into a political battlefield. "You're disappearing into your head again," Elara said softly, squeezing his hand. Her touch anchored him, pulling his perception back to 3 dimensions, to the warmth of her skin against his. "Sorry," Dex murmured, still getting used to seeing all the possibilities at once. "The combat mind sees many futures," Kresh'tal rumbled from his position by the door. "The warrior soul chooses one path and walks it with truth and blood. This is the blade wisdom you have learned, Dex who refused power." Garrett chuckled, a sound like gravel shifting. "In maintenance terms, you can see every pipe that might leak, but you still gotta pick which one to fix first." Despite the tension, Dex smiled. "I've missed your metaphors, Garrett." "Yeah, well, somebody's gotta keep you grounded." Garrett's expression turned serious. "You sure about this, kid? Once you make that announcement, there's no taking it back. You'll be humanity's voice to species that have been around for millions of years." "I'm sure," Dex said, and felt the truth of it settle into his bones. "Not because I want it, because refusing it means Zhao gets it, and I've seen what happens when people like him face precursor artifacts. They approach them with certainty, convinced they're heroes. That certainty is what corrupts them." Strand nodded approvingly. "The matriarch agrees. She sent word an hour ago. She'll attend the inquiry personally to witness your declaration. That's unprecedented. The Lumineth rarely involve themselves so directly in assembly politics." "She's making a statement," Elara observed, showing the council's support before Zhao can frame this as human arrogance. "The Thrin Confederacy will also send witness," Kresh'tal added. "War Master Vekthar himself travels to this station place. He arrives in 18 hours before your truth-speaking." Dex's eyes widened. "The War Master? I thought he never left the homeworld." "He does not," Kresh'tal confirmed. "Not in 43 cycles, but he declares this moment worthy of blood honor witness. The first species to refuse the crucible death in 3 million years deserves the highest respect showing." Strand whistled low. "That'll send a message to Zhao's coalition. If the Thrin War Master himself endorses you." "Political leverage," Elara said, though her quantum signature showed unease. "We're turning this into a spectacle." "It was always going to be a spectacle," Dex replied. "Zhao made sure of that when he formed his coalition. At least this way, we control the narrative." Garrett stood, stretching his back with a groan. "Well, if we've got 24 hours, you should probably figure out what you're actually gonna say. Can't just stand up there and wing it." "The truth," Dex said simply. "I'll tell them exactly why I'm accepting. Not because I'm special, but because someone has to. Not because I want power, but because I'm terrified of what happens if I refuse it." Strand pulled up a holographic display, showing a draft statement. "I've had my staff prepare something. It's diplomatic. Emphasizes humanity's readiness to take on greater responsibility, frames your transformation as an asset rather than a threat, acknowledges the concerns of member species while asserting your right to choose." Dex read through the floating text, watching words scroll past that sounded nothing like him. "It's good," he said carefully, But it's not me. No, Strand agreed. It's not, but it's what the Assembly expects to hear. Political language, carefully calibrated to offend no one while saying everything necessary. The blade truth cuts cleaner than soft speech, Kresh'tal observed. Dex, who sees 17 ways, speaks with his own voice, or the speaking means nothing. Elara nodded. He's right. The whole point is that you're different from people like Zhao. You don't hide behind political language. You say what you mean. Strand sighed, but there was approval in his quantum signature. Then we'll do it your way. But at least let me help you organize your thoughts. The inquiry panel needs to hear certain things. Your understanding of the role, your awareness of the risks, your commitment to representing humanity's interests while learning from the Council. And the artifacts, Dex added quietly. I need to explain why finding them matters, why letting Zhao do it would be dangerous. Carefully, Strand warned. You can't directly attack a fellow human representative without proof. Zhao hasn't done anything wrong yet. He's just positioning himself politically. But his quantum signature shows the same patterns as the conspirators, Dex protested. That absolute certainty, that conviction that he knows what's best. Which you can't mention in public testimony, Strand interrupted, because it sounds like you're claiming the ability to read minds, which will terrify half the Assembly and make the other half question your sanity. Dex slumped in his chair, frustrated. So I just ignore what I can see? Pretend I'm still normal? You acknowledge your transformation while respecting others' autonomy, Elara suggested. You explain that you've learned to perceive patterns, but you don't claim certainty about what those patterns mean. You stay humble. The warrior who boasts of blade skill dies first in true combat. Kresh'tal added, show the strength through action choosing, not word speaking. Garrett returned to his seat, his old eyes sharp. Kid, you spent 6 years being invisible. You learned to watch, to listen, to see what others missed. That's your real strength. Not the precursor abilities, but the fact that you never stopped being the guy who paid attention to details everyone else ignored. The janitor who sees the leaks before they flood the station, Dex murmured. Exactly. Garrett smiled. So be that guy tomorrow. Tell them you're accepting because you see what others don't. Not because you're better, but because you're paying attention. And what you see is that someone needs to find those artifacts before people like Zhao do. Dex felt something settle in his chest, a clarity cutting through the uncertainty. Okay, I can do that. They spent the next 3 hours crafting his statement. Not Strand's diplomatic version, but something that sounded like Dex, straightforward, honest, acknowledging fear while accepting responsibility. Elara helped refine the language, removing anything that sounded too rehearsed. Kresh'tal offered perspective on how other species would hear the words, what cultural contexts might create misunderstanding. Garrett kept them grounded, reminding Dex to speak from the heart rather than trying to sound impressive. By the time they finished, Dex had something he could stand behind. Not perfect, not political, but true. Good, Strand said, reviewing the final version. This works. It's honest without being naive, shows strength without arrogance. The matriarch will approve. And Zhao will hate it, Elara added with satisfaction. The truth-speaking always angers those who traffic in soft lies, Kresh'tal observed. A chime sounded at the door. Strand checked his datapad, then looked up with surprise. It's Sarah Chen. She's requesting to see you, Dex. Dex exchanged glances with Elara, who nodded encouragement. Let her in. Sarah entered, looking smaller than Dex remembered from the inquiry. She wore civilian clothes, dark pants, simple blouse, and her quantum signature showed grief mixed with determination. She nodded respectfully to the others before focusing on Dex. I heard, she said without preamble, about your decision, about Zhao's coalition. News travels fast, Dex replied carefully. The station's buzzing with it. Sarah took a seat across from him. Half the population thinks you're about to become humanity's savior. The other half thinks you're choosing alien influence over human interests. And what do you think? Sarah was quiet for a moment, her eyes distant. I think my brother would have made the same choice as Zhao. He would have believed with absolute certainty that claiming the seeker role for humanity's benefit was the right thing to do, and he would have been wrong. Dex felt his throat tighten. Sarah? No, let me finish. She leaned forward, intense. I've spent the last few days going through his personal files, his journals, trying to understand how he became what he became. And I found something. A note he wrote 3 years ago, right after he was promoted to Admiral. She pulled out a data pad, hands trembling slightly as she read. The burden of command is accepting that you alone can see the full picture. Lesser minds will question, will doubt, will hesitate. But someone must have the courage to act, even when others cannot understand the necessity. That is what separates leaders from followers. The words hung in the air, chilling in their certainty. That's when it started, Sarah continued. That's when he stopped listening, stopped doubting himself. He became so convinced of his own rightness that he couldn't see how wrong he'd become. Garrett nodded slowly. I've seen it before. Good people who start believing their own press, thinking they're the only ones who understand the real stakes. Representative Zhao sounds exactly like that, Sarah said. In the inquiry, in his public statements, that same absolute certainty, that same conviction that he alone sees the truth. You came here to warn me, Dex realized. I came here to tell you that you're making the right choice, Sarah corrected. Because you're terrified, because you doubt yourself, because you're doing this despite being afraid, not because you're certain it's right. Elara reached across the table, touching Sarah's hand. Your brother's death wasn't your fault. You know that, right? Sarah's eyes glistened. I know, but I can still honor his memory by making sure others don't follow his path, by supporting the person who refuses to become what he became. Dex felt the weight of her trust, her hope that his choice would somehow redeem her brother's mistakes. I'll try, he said quietly. I can't promise I won't fail, but I'll try to stay afraid, to keep doubting, to never become certain I'm right. That's all anyone can do, Sarah replied. She stood, composing herself. I'll be at the inquiry tomorrow. Front row again. When you make your announcement, I want you to see at least one person who believes in you for the right reasons. After she left, the room was quiet. Garrett broke the silence first. Heavy day, he observed. They're all going to be heavy now, Dex said. For years, decades maybe, traveling the galaxy, finding artifacts, facing tests I can't even imagine. Not alone, Elara reminded him, squeezing his hand. Never alone, Kresh'tal added. The blood honor extends beyond one warrior. The Thryn will send witness blades to guard your path. Strand stood, gathering his data pads. I'll coordinate with station security for tomorrow. We're expecting 5,000 observers in the main assembly hall, with another 20,000 watching via feeds throughout the station. Representatives from 43 species have confirmed attendance. No pressure, Dex muttered. Garrett clapped him on the shoulder. Kid, you've already saved the galaxy once. This is just standing up and saying so out loud. They dispersed eventually. Strand to coordinate security, Kresh'tal to prepare for the War Master's arrival, Garrett to catch some sleep before the big day. Dex and Elara returned to their quarters, exhausted but too wired to rest. Dex stood at the viewport, watching stars wheel past as the station rotated. Somewhere out there, 11 precursor artifacts waited in forgotten corners of the galaxy. Tests of compassion, wisdom, sacrifice, connection, doubt, hope, and aspects he couldn't yet name. Each one dangerous in different ways, each one capable of breaking those who approached with certainty. You're thinking about the artifacts, Elara said, joining him at the window. Wondering which one we'll find first, Dex admitted. Wondering if I'll pass the tests, or if I'll fail like the 17 civilizations before us. You won't fail. You can't know that. No, Elara agreed. But I know you, and I know that the person who destroyed the Crucible because he was too afraid to use it is the exact person the precursors hoped would find their lessons. Dex turned to face her, seeing her quantum signature shimmer with love and determination. Promise me something. Anything. If I start to change, if I start sounding like Admiral Chen, like Zhao, like I'm certain I'm right, you'll stop me, whatever it takes. Elara's expression was fierce. I promise. But Dex, I don't think you will. Because you're asking me to make that promise. Because you're already afraid of becoming that. That fear is what keeps you human. They stood together at the viewport, watching maintenance drones work in the endless night. Tomorrow, Dex would stand before the assembly and accept a responsibility he never wanted. beginning a journey that would consume years of his life. But tonight, he was simply a man with the woman he loved, taking comfort in her presence. "One choice at a time," he murmured. "One choice at a time," Elara echoed. Somewhere in the station's depths, Representative Zhao prepared his own response, crafting political strategies to undermine Dex's announcement. In the Thrin sector, War Master Vekthar's ship approached through the jump gate, bearing witness to a moment that would reshape galactic politics. The Lumineth matriarch waited in meditation, ready to formally recognize humanity's new representative to the Council of Ascended Species. And across 17 dimensions, the precursors watched with something like hope, curious to see what the maintenance worker who refused their gift would become when he accepted their greater challenge. The future remained uncertain, probability streams collapsing and branching with every heartbeat. But in this moment, Dex Holloway was simply himself, afraid, determined, and ready to face whatever tomorrow would bring. One choice at a time, it would have to be enough.
Thanks for watching our stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more epic adventures. Thanks for watching our stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more epic adventures.